what I learned throughout this whole thing, the ability to be present, even though I was dealing with Jen, who, was critically critical, it was almost like all the other stuff in life. It was like a vacation. I know that's a weird idea, a vacation from nonsense and a visit with ultimate reality. And in the book, at the end of it, I talk about that in one of my entries, that this year gave me the opportunity to be present with Jan and my family, and to be connected and intimate, and to live this other life, which was so profoundly meaningful.
Welcome to the Angels and Awakening podcast, where we connect you with your angels, loved ones, and soul self. I'm your host and author, Julie Jancius. My journey began when I started hearing my late father before I knew he'd passed. Through my readings, membership, and Angel Reiki school, I help you awaken, heal, and master your unique spiritual gifts. If you feel called to work with me, it's your angels guiding you to discover your soul's highest purpose. Details at theangelmedium.com. Thank you, Earth Angels, for the 5-star reviews. You're entered into a drawing to win a free session. Now let's see what messages your angels have for you today. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Angels and Awakening podcast. And friends, we have a tremendous angel story to share with you today. It comes from authors Jennifer Goldman and Caryn Hirschleifers. Their book is called In the Face of Catastrophe: How a Traumatic Brain Injury Became a Blessing. Jennifer, Caryn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
So you have a stroke, Jennifer, at a young age.
31.
31.
It was actually 30 days before my 31st birthday.
I want you to walk us through this day, because I believe your entire story is just such a miracle. And I think it's going to open people's hearts to miracles.
Okay, so I honestly don't really remember the story that well, because my mom, she can tell it much better than I can. All I remember is that I was at work. It was like 9 a.m. and I just went down. I started to feel wobbly. I had a headache and I just went down, and I was at her store, which is a clothing business, and I'm 5th generation, and they just brought me to the fitting room, and that's it. My cousin was there and he helped me, and that's it.
So Caryn, were you there or were you at home?
It was a Wednesday morning, August 18th, 2021, and it was 9:15 in the morning, and we live about 10 minutes from the store, which is a 5th generation family business, which started over 100 years ago in Brooklyn. It's interesting because Jen had only recently begun to work there. Before that,
I've been there for about a year.
Right. But the relevance of that is, if she had not started to work at the store and had been elsewhere doing what she had been doing, she likely would have died. The fact that she had her stroke in my family business, surrounded by people who knew her and loved her, and immediately reached out to me and my husband, who happens to be a board certified emergency medicine doctor, was how she survived. So basically, it was a Wednesday and my husband wasn't working that day. And I got a call from our general manager. The store is called Hirschleifers, and we have about 150 employees and a very close family business. So we get a call from the GM. She said, "Caryn, there's something up with Jen. It's like she's on LSD." And so I said, "LSD?" I said, "Jen has been into wellness, and her prior business was all around motivational speaking. She had created a number of products, wellness products. They were in stores across the country. I mean, she was really, really successful." So I said, "LSD, no. Maybe she took too many herbal supplements." My husband basically said, let me go over there and check this out. This sounds really weird. After he left, the GM called back. She said, Caryn, what is going on? Where is David? I need help here. And then I actually heard Jen, her screams in the background as the blood from her artery in her brain sort of exploded into her brain. And it was horrifying. I'll never forget the sound of those screams. It was like an animal being gored. And so I went immediately to work. And as I was driving there, my sister, who also works there, I have two sisters, both of whom work there, my nephews, as I was driving there, I got a text from my sister who said, David, my husband, had arrived there. Jen has a bleed in her brain. Come. And it was like, what? Jen is 30. Jen hikes. She works out. She runs. You know, she's completely independent. She, in terms of her business, she built this business with her own two hands, investing all of her time and energy. She started in her dorm room at college. She's fearless. She's, you know, I used to call her my spider because, you know, if somebody came and messed with her web, she'd just rebuild it. She wouldn't sit there and say, oh my gosh, you know, this is horrible. No, Jen would just say, well, I'm going to fix it and move on. And that's always been Jen, you know, really intrepid and independent and just determined.
Yeah.
And so now I get to the store and there's an ambulance there. The back doors are open. And I move into the store and the staff is all standing around weeping. And I see Jen having been loaded onto this stretcher. And they were starting to move her out of the store. And I came in and I looked at her and I felt the stares of everyone else looking to me as I watched, as I processed what was going on with my daughter. And Jen was really close to death at that point. She had, her hands were turned in, her legs were turned in, which is kind of, it's called decorticate posturing. It's like one step before your brain herniates, meaning the brain actually, there's so much fluid that it pushes it down, and that would be fatal. So she gets into the ambulance. We basically follow her to the hospital. And that was the beginning of the longest day of our lives. So got to the hospital. And when we got there, the neurosurgeon who first saw her, basically, he was going to do an angiogram to see what was going on in her brain. And basically, in that initial moment, the neurosurgeon said, you know, based on what the ER has seen, she's got multiple bleeds in her brain coming from different parts of her brain. And if this is what they think it is, this is fatal. I cannot save your daughter. And it was just like really happening. I mean, yesterday she was driving. Yesterday she was walking on the beach. You know, yesterday this was Jen, my spider. And here this was, it was just, I couldn't even, I heard the words, but I couldn't wrap my head around it. And so he basically said, I'm going to go and do this and come back. It's going to take me about 20 minutes. No, I'm sorry, 45 minutes. So he leaves and I was sitting with Amanda. I was holding her hand. She was weeping. And about 10 minutes later, the door opens and he walks back in. And I think, oh my God, she's gone. She's gone. And we jumped up. We said, is she gone? The doctor said, no. He said, I've got good news and not so good news. The good news is that she does not have multiple bleeds in her brain. Okay. The bad news, or the not so good news, is I'm not sure what is going on. I have my suspicions. And if what I think is right, we'd be able to take care of it. The problem is that until the blood is drained from her brain, we can't do anything. And he said there's so much blood in her brain. The bleeding had stopped, but it was all in her ventricles. It was everywhere. And he said, basically, if she rebleeds, she's going to die. And so, you know, just for context, you know, I'm old. Okay, I'm not old, but whatever. I've had many years before me and hopefully many years ahead of me.
Yeah.
But my brain is smaller. There's space in my brain so
There's
that,
space around your brain.
right, there's space around my brain. So if fluid got into the space around my brain, it wouldn't be good. But Jen's brain, the brain of a young person, is full and there's no space around it. So whatever is going on with the blood, you know that as the blood sits there, it is interfering with nerves. You've got brain matter that as you sit there, as long as that blood is in there, it's being messed with, it's being destroyed, it's being diminished in some way. And so there was this like quest, get the blood out. And so the next 10 days, or actually the next few days, particularly, basically they inserted a drain, the drain got clogged, they inserted a second drain, they got clogged, they inserted a third drain, and then finally they and the way we would find this out was we'd get calls at night, and it would basically, they'd start off, you knew who it was, you didn't need an introduction, but they would say, hi, this is Dr. So-and-so calling from so-and-so, so-and-so, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Okay, what? We know what.
That's the point.
Right. And so finally they decided that the best move, or really the only move, was to open her skull and remove a piece of her skull so that it gave her brain the space and the opportunity to sort of grow, enlarge, expand. And so they did that. And basically over, a few days, the blood finally dissipated to the point where the neurosurgeon was able to do the procedure. And indeed, what he had thought it was, which is called a cavernous malformation, is what it was. And a cavernous malformation is like just if you think about like a blackberry or a raspberry, it's basically it's an enlargement of your blood vessel that lives connected to an artery in her brain. Many people have them. And even if somebody were to identify it through some kind of MRI, most doctors wouldn't do anything with it because
they rarely explode.
Right. They rarely explode. I don't know. It was just the possibility that this would happen was
so slim. It was really crazy.
Right. So Jen's, for whatever reason, this berry exploded and it ruptured the artery. That's what happened.
Here's our free and paid upcoming events. Angel Reiki School is in person November 8th through 10th in Chicagoland, or begin online November 1st. My new course, Release Fear and Embrace Miracles, starts November 1st online. Become a member to get this course free, or it's $133 for non-members. We have a free workshop October 23rd at 8 p.m. Central on how fear is really holding you back. And join our free prayer meeting right before that at 7 p.m. Central. Sign up for all of this and more at theangelmedium.com/events. Is that technically a stroke? Or I'm familiar with brain aneurysms because they run in our family. Is it a brain aneurysm, or this is something that you're saying is completely different from both?
Well, there's different kinds of strokes. This stroke is based, first of all, not all strokes involve blood.
Okay.
Only 10% actually involve blood.
Wow.
And
the rest are dry strokes, which is a clot.
Right, which they hopefully can remove or make smaller, and then it will sort of move throughout to someplace else in your body and exit your body. But this was a violent explosion.
Brain bleed.
In her brain.
Caryn, it's coming to me that I don't know about you as a mama, but kind of as a mama myself, you grow into mamahood, right? It just doesn't come automatically. And early on, I would be like, well, do you call 911 for this or don't you?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of what the angels try and do through this show is bring things to people who are going to need to know certain things, possibly in the future. And my grandfather had an episode when he was going through cancer where his blood sugar levels went off. And what just strikes me from your story, Jennifer, too, is that your people surrounding you knew you. They knew that the behavior was not like you. But my grandma, I think, just thought he was being goofy. She didn't completely understand what was happening. And a lot of times when we see the behavior of somebody that we love change very drastically, it's not drugs or something at play. There's something medically going very, very wrong. And it's okay to drop everything to call 911. I think a lot of us think, well, do we call? Don't we call? I don't know. Do you wait it out? When in doubt, just call.
Yeah.
Because you could be saving a life. So I'm sure your dad, Jennifer, is just there on top of everything, just managing your care as you go. Do you have any recollection of just being out, or do you have no recollection?
I have nothing. I was in a medically induced coma under fentanyl and a cocktail of other drugs. I have no idea. Yeah.
So I know that you're a very spiritual person. You talk about in the book that this catastrophe you turned into a blessing. And I love, Mom, that spider web analogy, because here she is building the spider web again and taking this catastrophe and building her life back. Did you feel during that time just any presence, either of you, of anyone on the other side, any signs of just everything is going to be okay, that the other side is at play and guiding your way forward?
Right. For me, it was more trying to stay present. That for me was how I basically managed. And what I mean by that is everyone around you they're all sending you these signals that are completely terrifying. Like in the ICU, they don't normally have 30-year-olds in the neurosurgery ICU. And so when Jen was in the neurosurgery ICU, on one side, you could see that the nurses and the staff were like, this is my daughter. This is my sister. It's my granddaughter. And it was almost like this collective coming together that we are not going to lose this girl. Not on our watch. Okay. We're going to get her through this. And it was sort of miraculous how you could feel that. At the same time, there was this sense when I first went in there, I had the sense that they were sizing me up to see if I had the strength to navigate this. It was sort of like, look, she doesn't know what she's in for. And so it was almost like, for me, it sort of made me a little bit scared, because it's like, oh my God, what if I don't have the strength to navigate this? What if I can't be there? What if I can't do what I need to do? So at the same time, there was that, but there was also this love for Jen. And Jen had made these aromatherapy products, which were really awesome. And so one of the first things that Amanda did, she basically said, we're bringing her products because we're trying to bring her back to life. She was in a coma. I mean, she was unconscious. It's, not responding for some time, actually. And so Amanda brought her products and would sort of spray them in the room and apply them to Jen. But then all the nurses would come in and say, what is that? And I'd say, oh, this is this product with neroli and rose and chamomile, and it's called this. And they said, oh, wow, can I apply some of this? And so I said, yeah, because anything that brings Jen home, if this is going to make her connect more to home. And Amanda also has had this bear called Barry, a very imaginative name, but she's had Barry, this white bear that is now not very white, it's sort of gray. And so Barry, she said, Barry has to be with Jen. So she brings Barry, she orders like these hospital scrubs for the bear. The bear is this big. And so she goes into the ICU, and I mean, they're very serious in the ICU. And she says, listen, this is Barry. Barry has got to be with Jen. Barry is as important as the stuff running through that IV. Okay. And
He was.
so in every scene, every photo, every image of Jen in the ICU, there is her with Barry under her arm, Barry stuff by her side. It was pretty cool. There was a lot of stuff. So basically going back to the idea of presence, the doctors kept saying that, your daughter is critically critical. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, what does that mean? Okay, I know she's critical. I know that she's not out of the woods. She could die at any moment. She's still in the ICU, hooked up to any number of things. There's a whole bunch of issues. But what do they want me to do with that information? Do they want me to conclude that she's dying? How do they know that? We're not sure of that. Do they want me to start to plan her funeral? It was sort of like, no. She's here, she's alive. I'm in this moment, I'm sitting here holding her hand, and I need to create my own sense of presence. Okay? Be in this moment now. Do not worry, because, so now, even if Jen lives, okay, so she's lived this far, let's say she continues to live, what's happening with her brain? Is she going to be paralyzed? She's going to be able to communicate. Jen's always been a motivational speaker, a very passionate communicator.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going to happen? The point is that you can't get there because you'll die. You cannot get there. You need to stay. I am here now.
Yeah.
I am here with you. I'm holding your hand and I am with you and you are with me.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was sort of getting rid of everything else, just being there. And what I learned throughout this whole thing, and then I'll let Jen speak, I don't mean to monopolize this, but the ability to be present, even though I was dealing with Jen, who, was critically critical, it was almost like all the other stuff in life. It was like a vacation. I know that's a weird idea, a vacation from nonsense and a visit with ultimate reality. And in the book, at the end of it, maybe we could read a couple of passages from it, but at the end of it, I talk about that in one of my entries, where I say that the year was, because the book was pretty much written at the end of year one, but that this year gave me the opportunity to be present with Jen and my family, and to be connected and intimate, and to live this other life, which was so profoundly meaningful.
Friends, I just want to thank you for sharing each episode with your friends. Because of you, we've hit nearly 10 million downloads a year. Wow. As a thank you and gift, please enjoy my free 31-day angel success formula at theangelmedium.com so you can start connecting with your angels today. And please share today's episode if you've enjoyed it and tag me at Angel Podcast. Jen, what about you? This healing recovery had to have been so challenging and so hard. What got you through? And did you feel that presence from the other side and get signs along your healing journey?
I'm actually still in it right now. It's not over at all. It happens every day. The journey is ongoing. The progress I make continues. And some days, most days, I feel down. I feel like giving up. But what keeps me going is like the idea that I can get better. And I'm very motivated by my progress.
But Jen actually has always listened to affirmations, and maybe I can read.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And then I've got some messages too, if that's okay to bring.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Please
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, you want
Okay.
to do that first, or?
Yes, please do that.
Sure. So I think it's really, really fascinating. What I tell a lot of people who go through my Angel Reiki school, because I teach people how to do this work and be a messenger, is that Spirit can't communicate something to you always in a caring way unless you understand what that means. So if you didn't know what the word green means, how do you communicate that to another person? If you don't know what a dinosaur is, how do you communicate that to another person? So kind of the more that you know about life and the more experiences that you have, which is why I think that a lot of people who are messengers here on earth have gone through a lot of things themselves, because then they know the experience of it and how to communicate it to others. And I take a lot of care in bringing through these messages to you, Jen, because my daughter was in the NICU and then the PICU and then the NICU for basically the first 6 months of her life. She was tube fed until she was 3. She coded twice within her first 2 years. So I understand the relationship between mom and daughter. I understand the relationship between going through hard things and just not knowing if your child's going to survive. But I felt a couple of different things. First, who is the father, Caryn, yours or dad's? Jen's dad, who was on the other side when she went through her emergency.
They both were.
They
Right.
both were. Okay. So I kept getting the energy of them and just seeing them as mom was telling that story. They were with you in the surgeries. They were there with you when everything happened. They were there with you when you were in the coma. And I actually feel, even though you can't remember it, if you're a meditator, sometimes we go back to different energies and realize, what do they call it? Like a repressed memory. Sometimes
Yeah.
people do that in counseling, like they go back to remember something in childhood that they didn't remember.
A felt sense.
Yes. So your grandfathers both say that if you kind of tune into it, it might come back to you in flashes in the future that you were there with both of them. Was there a grandmother of yours, Jen, who passed after you had the incident?
No.
Okay. So she was on the other side before.
Yeah.
Okay. Because she really comes through as the head of your spirit team. And I tell everybody that everyone, is that your mom, Caryn?
No, my dad's mom.
Yeah.
She is the head of my spirit team.
She's incredible. She's such a great director of everything. She's very communicative. She's very organized. She's the leader of the pack. So when I say spirit team, I believe that I call God all that is, right? God, universe, source energy is there. Your angels, your loved ones on the other side, pets, guides, they're all there as part of this just loving, positive team that's here to help you in every way, shape, and form. And one of the things that your grandmother has been showing me, and this is the sensitive part that, like, I work with women who haven't been able to get pregnant, and to be able to tell them a message, I just don't say you're going to have a baby, like it's a big thing to say to somebody. And if it's not true, like you can't bring that message true. And same with big healings like this, like you have had the most powerful miracle, but there are miracles coming in every single day for you. And your grandma really wants you to know that I see you continuing to be a powerhouse. I can see you recreating your career, having different products again in the future, really getting back to a place where you feel whole again, that health, and also speaking. And it doesn't have to be on anybody else's terms, because I get it in this industry. Like, they will take as much as they can get and they will push you to do as much as you can do, but it can be on your terms of, this is what I have to give, and I'm willing to do 5 stops over a summer, and it's just over the summer, but the rest of the year is to me, or whatever it might look like for you. But you kind of get what I mean.
I fully believe this all happened for a reason.
Yeah.
I fully believe that, like, this was supposed to happen to me because this is my path, because I want to be a motivational speaker, period.
Yeah.
And this is something that needed to happen. I needed to have this so I could have something to speak about.
100%. If it's okay, I'm going to send you, if you send me your address afterwards, I'm going to send you my first book, Angels and Awakening, because in there I talk about the seraphim angels
Yeah.
and how some of us, when we're younger, don't always feel like we fit 100%. We kind of feel like we're the oddball
Yeah,
out.
I felt like that my whole
Your
life.
grandma, yeah, your grandma says that you felt like that as a kid too. You
Yeah.
just felt like you didn't totally fit.
Yeah.
And she goes, would you tell my granddaughter that that's because she's part of the Seraphim's team? And I believe that there are reasons that we all come here. We don't all come here as souls for the same reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're on the other side, which has everything that we have here
Yeah.
and so much more. And sometimes you're at a family party on the other side and you're like, your husband and your son and your daughter are like, well, I think we're ready for another lifetime. I think we're going to go through.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus, no, I'm not going through for, but you're like, okay, I'll go to be
Yeah.
there for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go to be there for our loved ones. Mom, you got a little bit of that energy over there. Sometimes we really want to learn and we want to expand our souls and we want to be in a state of growth. So we raise our hand and we ask, can I go? Can I learn this? Can I experience this?
Mhm.
And sometimes we're just minding our own business on the other side, which was you, Jen, and the Sarah.
I was minding my own business on the other side.
Yeah, you were minding your own business on the other side. And the seraphim came and tapped and asked you to do this work here on earth. And I know that you have those hard days, and I get that more than you understand, but they really, really want to encourage you to focus your mind's eye, your attention on the souls that you're here to help and to serve in this life.
Yes.
Because the seraphim keep saying there's a big group of lives that are
Mhm.
going to be different and on a different trajectory
Mhm.
because they hear your story,
Aw.
and because they feel your strength, and
Mhm.
because they feel the strength that you've used to get through this time. And it feeds them what they need to get through their own hardships.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean,
received that.
that's the goal here. So we started to write the book when Jen, she basically came out of rehab, which followed the hospital. We would sit here together and she would say, but by the way, Jen was paralyzed. The stroke is in the left frontal lobe, which is the site of cognition.
Yeah.
And also
Communication,
and
language.
also some movement. So she was paralyzed on the right side of her body. So the way it was described, her brain does not understand that her body has a right side. And so, for the last almost 3 years, she's been trying to reacquaint her brain with her right side. Originally was unable to walk, was in a wheelchair, and now is able to walk with a walker. And she comes to work 3 days a week. But so what happened was she'd come back, we would sit here, and I had taken notes when I was at the hospital because it was too much to process. And I knew that I would need to process it at some point. And so when I got back here, Jen said, what happened to me? She had no memory of what had happened to her at that point. So I started to tell her and walk through what had happened. And I pulled out my notes and I said, okay, are you up for this? And she said, I want to know it all. I want to hear it.
Mhm.
And I started to talk to her and she started to cry. And she said, I can't believe how awful that was for you guys.
Mhm.
Oh,
How horrible and sad that was for you guys. I was not cognizant of what was going on, but you guys were. And, I said, well, maybe we can write something together because would write, I've never been paid to write. I've never, I'm an attorney and I work in my family business. And Jen's always been writing and creating her own content for her products and her website. I said, why don't we write something together? And she said, that would be great. And then she said, and I want to call it The Gift, because this has been for me a gift of time I didn't know I needed to be with my family. And so we started writing. And, there were periods of time where, so the book, it doesn't really get to halfway through the book where Jen's voice is actually becomes present.
Yeah.
Jen, you have been through so much, and I want to bring through some private message because I don't think that everything is for the podcast to share. So I want to just let the audience know where they can find you first and foremost, where they can find the book, because it's such a powerful story. And we'll put all of that information in the show notes below.
They can find me on social media at Jennifer Rose Goldman on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And they can find me on inthefaceofcatastrophe.com. That's it, right, Mom?
Yes.
Perfect. And for everybody listening, your angels want you to know that they are bringing through miracles to you every single day, just as Caryn so beautifully talked about. We have to believe, we have to stay present, we have to open ourselves up to miracles, even in our darkest hour, and just believe that they are possible, and not just once here or there, but miracles every single day, again and again and again. And Jen, I just so appreciate you sharing your story and opening your heart. Carolyn, you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having us.
If you feel called to become a certified angel messenger, energy healer, and medium, join my Angel Reiki school to learn all three at once. I'll also give you my secret sauce for building a successful, sustainable spiritual business. We're in person November 2024 and April 2025, or start the Angel Reiki school online on the first of the month. For personal messages from your spirit team, book a one-on-one reading with me. New slots are released monthly via email. Join my membership to grow spiritually, heal deeply, and connect with your angels for daily guidance and support on your personal journey. Visit theangelmedium.com/contact. Have an angel story? Share it at theangelmedium.com/contact to inspire our community with hope and love. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you back here Monday with a brand new episode.